Drawing a schematic is part of the assessment criteria. A schematic diagram of the layout of the swimming pool plant must be sketched out. Should indicate clearly using arrows to indicate the direction of flow of each of these components. So what we're looking for is for it to include the pool tank itself, the balance tank if you've got a balance tank. You might not have a balance tank if your pool is not a deck level pool. You will have a balance tank if it's a deck level pool. Surface water draw off system, sumps, strainers, pumps, filters, heating, the chemical tanks and the pumps. And if you're in the precarious position of not having those and having to hand dose all the time, you might legitimately not have them to include on your schematic. If so, just make a note somewhere on the schematic down at the bottom, maybe a little footnote just to say that you haven't got any chemical tanks and pumps. Same for number 10. Obviously, if you've got no monitoring equipment, to be honest, you should have if you're a commercial pool. But we're aware of the fact that there are some pools that have decided to continue hand dosing. Main valves, number 11, is what we need included as well. The idea is actually drawing out a schematic is a really good way of getting to know your system. There's been plenty of incidents that have been caused because there's been that lack of knowledge within the site that just don't know enough about their system to be able to operate it effectively and safely. So this is a good way of getting that knowledge, especially for people that maybe are new to pool plant operations and don't really come into contact with the type of equipment to be found in typical commercial plant rooms. So the idea is, as it says down here, you've got to draw the schematic by actually going around the system and familiarizing yourself with the layout. It's probably not going to be possible to sort of sit at your desk and be able to do this exercise from start to finish. You probably need to go down into the plant room and do a sort of a rough draft of everything, and then get back to your desk and then tidy it up a little bit when you're back at your desk. But critically, don't just copy the schematic out of a book. You'll find plenty of schematics out there, either in textbooks or online. But if you're just going to copy from one of those schematics, you're not going to learn anything about your own system. And it's critical that you know your own system well, because swimming pool plant rooms, they all operate in basically the same way, but there's an awful lot of difference between different types of plant rooms. You're always going to get pumps, filters, heating, and they're always going to be in that order. You're always going to get pumps first, and then you're going to get filters, and then you're going to get some sort of heating system. So the basics are fairly consistent, but there's nothing like knowing your own plant room well, and so this is a good way of doing that. The work needs to be your own work, even if you're doing your schematic based on the same plant room that maybe a fellow course candidate is doing. Obviously, the schematic's going to end up looking similar because it's on the same system. But if it's genuinely your own work, there's going to be differences. It's going to be obvious if you've just copied somebody else's. So make sure it's your own work. And I want to just provide you with an example of the type of schematic that a previous course candidate had submitted to us. That's a good example of the type of detail that we're looking for. So let me just make that a little bit bigger. So they've just simply sketched it out by hand. I don't recommend doing it on a computer unless you've got sort of dedicated software to be able to create these kinds of schematics. But to be honest, we're not expecting that. A simple line drawing will be more than sufficient. So they've basically got everything that we've asked for. They've got the pool. They're indicating the type of surface water draw off system. It's a deck level pool, so the water's coming into the out of the pool at the overflow, coming into the balance tank. They've indicated the sump. They've got the directional the directional arrows indicating the direction of flow coming through into the plant room, and again valves being indicated, the main valves, strainer baskets, pumps. The monitoring equipment here, a sample is being drawn from the main circulation for monitoring. They've got a flow meter coming down here to the filtration system. Through the filtration system, this particular site had a UV system. You might not have a UV system, so that obviously wouldn't be on your schematic in that case. A heat exchanger, calcium hypochlorite, which is the disinfectant, CO2, which was their pH correctant, and then going back into the pool. It's a really good example of a good standard schematic. Really good work that is. And what we'll be doing, we will be looking to make sure that you've got all of these things. So on that schematic we've just seen, pull tank, tick, balance tank, tick, surface water draw-off system indicated, yep, tick, sumps, the sump at the bottom of the pull tank itself, sometimes it's called the main drain, yep, tick, strainers, tick, pumps, filters, heating, chemical tanks and pumps, monitoring equipment, main valves. Also don't forget arrows to indicate the direction of flow, but it's all there on that schematic. Everything that is on that bullet point list is on the schematic. So I would recommend actually using the bullet point list as a sort of a check, a self audit before you send this back to us. Just go through it yourself, make sure that every one of those items is addressed and that you've got the arrows to indicate the direction of flow. Once you've done your schematic, scan it, or scan it with your phone or with an actual scanner, but get it onto your computer or your device so that you can then upload it. So once it's on your device, search for it, you just click on browse there and it'll bring up your own file explorer, and then just attach it and send it to us. And that's what we're looking for in terms of the schematic diagram.